Welcome to Every Horror Movie on Netflix, the show where we watch, review, and discuss every horror movie on Netflix. Thanks for joining us. Back again this week, it's me, Chris, here with Patrick.
Hi, Chris.
And Steven.
Hello.
And our special guest, this is going to confuse everybody, our special guest, Allison.
Hey, what's up?
But it's not the same Allison that we've
it's
had
Different Allison this time.
This is Allison with a Y. Before we had Allison with an I.
Where does the Y fit into that? Spell your name.
Alllyson.
I'm just kidding. You didn't have to do that.
That Y fit in?
So we can still keep them straight based on that technicality.
You can just call me Other Allison.
If we have two guests with the same first name, I don't know what we're going to do.
Call me Al.
Allison holds the distinction of being one of those folks who is... We're making an arduous trek of watching every horror movie on Netflix, but I think it's an even more arduous trek to listen to every episode of every horror movie on Netflix, which Allison has done. How has that been?
It has been a delightfully harrowing experience. It's quite the commitment, but ultimately, I believe it is worth it because I feel like I am a better person because of it. I have learned so much from these wonderful people.
You guys hear that? We're educational.
Yeah, so you listen to every episode.
I listen to every episode.
Do you watch the movies?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Even when we all give it a view,
She's like,
which has
"Are you
happened
nuts?"
exactly once.
Some of the ones, I think the ones that you guys have like reviewed the best, I think I already watched before the episode.
Okay.
Explain the circumstances of why you decided to listen to all of our episodes.
So I was on a work trip. I was gone for a week and I had nothing else to do when I wasn't working other than listen to podcasts. So I binged real hard.
So are you listening like in a hotel or are you listening like on the road, like you're driving cross country?
Both. There was a little bit of road listening. There was a little bit of working out at the gym at the hotel listening. Yep.
Because if I had to picture my ideal listener, it's someone behind the wheel of a vehicle traveling cross country, Route 66.
I mean, it was Chicago. I went to Chicago.
Or Highway 666, the Devil's Highway. You ever hear about that one? There's it's a stretch of road in the Southwest, and it's got more like fatalities than any other stretch of road in the country. I learned about that in Unsolved Mysteries.
Wow.
Back in the day.
Which is coming back to Netflix.
Oh,
apparently.
It is to
Yeah.
Netflix.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Who's the new Robert Stack? We were talking about this, weren't we?
No idea.
There's no new Robert.
Jordan
Hopefully
Peele.
it's Mitch Pileggi.
That was one of my favorite shows
could
as
be.
a kid. I was obsessed with it.
The real question, Allison, is have you had any driveway moments listening to Amon?
Actually, I have. I'm just about to finish an episode, and I'm just like, I'm just going to sit here in my driveway just a little bit longer.
Thanks for that, Allison. Now, if you call right now and donate $10, you can get your free Amon tote bag.
Dope.
And Allison with a Y, we usually ask our guests, about their previous experience with horror. And do you consider yourself a horror fan? What's your kind of relationship? Do you have any favorite horror movies?
I love spooky shit. So I'm not generally a big fan of slasher films, but I'm a big fan of the classic gothic horror stuff and stuff like that. So I'm definitely a horror fan, but not an all horror fan because there's a lot of shit out there.
I heard you're a real life witch. Do you want to talk about that?
That would probably be correct. Super part-time witch.
Super part-time. Okay.
Super part-time
Have
witch.
you signed your name in the Book of the Beast?
Nah, no, man. He showed up at my door and I was like, get the fuck out of here, man. I'm not interested in your goddamn book.
So you're a white witch.
Sure.
Okay.
Explain some of your powers or things that you've dabbled with.
I mean, okay, so I guess I dabble with healing and manifestation work, and I make my own black salt to protect my home.
Okay.
Yeah.
We know
Just like in a dark song.
We know about that from a dark song.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yep, I do some candle magic for manifestation work. And standard, I have a black cat, I read tarot cards.
Does the cat talk?
Oh, sometimes it sounds like he says mom.
Oh, that's a talking cat.
or no. Sounds like he says no.
Can you perform a ritual to get us more listeners and subscribers and iTunes
good
reviews?
idea.
I can work on an abundance ritual just for you guys.
All right.
Can you make this podcast profitable, please?
I think that's still up to you.
Damn it.
Going to take a whole coven to make that happen.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad you're here, and we're glad to be speaking this week about Jason X, or Jason 10 if you prefer, which this was Patrick's decision. He won the Wheel of Death last time, made us all watch Jason X, and just reiterate again why you decided that this is a movie we needed to see.
Just because I've been watching the entire Friday the 13th franchise. I've been super stoked about watching Jason X. Steven's commentary on it several episodes ago. I forget how it even came up in the first place, but certainly intrigued me. It's Jason in space, and I kind of wanted to bring you guys along because you're my best friends, my beloveds, and I wanted to bring you along on my crazy-ass, awful Friday the 13th watching journey.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
So briefly, because I hope that we don't have to watch...
I mean, listen, buddy, you made us watch Terrifier, so I don't think you have any room to talk.
That was kind of a group decision, though. We'd all been talking about Terrifier. We weren't all talking about Jason X.
Yeah, okay, we can talk about that another time.
Well, we already did. I'm done with it.
Well, because I hope we don't have to do an episode where we review every Friday the 13th movie ever made, although it could happen. Just briefly tell us about, your thoughts on the whole Friday the 13th saga, because I have only seen the first one plus Freddy vs. Jason before this.
I mean, I think I used the phrase last episode, lukewarm garbage, to describe them, and I stand by that. They're very formulaic. There's not much to say, man. I mean, there's like one that I actually enjoyed. I enjoyed what's it called? The one that you guys watched with me, Jason Lives, where he gets electrocuted at the beginning and comes back like from the literal grave out of his coffin. That one has like a sense of humor and some self-awareness to it. But otherwise, I don't know. I've just watched them because I kind of want to be able to say that I did and that I'm like aware of that piece of horror history, not because I've particularly enjoyed any of them. Oh, also the 9th one, Jason Goes to Hell, was fucking insane. There's a lot of insane mythology and history behind that I could get into, and I just won't right now, but it is wild.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a good experience to watch all of them, but I was surprised at the one we watched that it had that kind of sense of humor to it. Mm-hmm. Because the first movie, as I remember it, is very self-serious, kind of. Like,
yeah, it is.
So
I mean, they develop more of a sense of humor as they go along, but it's like, I don't know, there's like Jason Takes Manhattan where he like shows up in New York and it's like, Jason interacting with homeless people. That's funny, right? And no, it's not.
And that one, it takes like an hour and a half for him to get to Manhattan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're just on a boat like on the way to New York for 2/3 of the movie.
I'm assuming from your guys' silence that you aren't extremely keen on the Friday the 13th series or have much experience with it.
I've only ever seen part 3, the 3D one.
Oh, God.
And I have no desire. Like, I really don't like slasher movies.
Yeah, I have only seen the first one, and I was like in middle school when I saw it, so I'm not super familiar with them, and it didn't interest me too much, other than the fact that it is, considered a classic horror film.
Well, this time Jason's in space.
Yep.
How does he wind up there, Chris?
Well, and he's there from moment one. Fortunately, it doesn't take him as long to get to space as it does to get to Manhattan.
Yeah, this was great, and I assume, and Patrick can correct me if I'm wrong, I assume that there's no real continuity from this and the previous movie.
No, and this actually upsets me because this is another thing about the series. There is a lot of continuity. Actually, the first 3, 4, maybe even 5 actually do that thing that sequels used to do back in the day where they would show you the final couple minutes of the previous movie and have that connective tissue. And so even though it's this ridiculous thing where he gets resurrected over and over and over again, there's a narrative, there's the appearance of a grand plan. This one, in the last movie, Jason went to hell, as the title promises. He gets dragged down to hell finally at the fucking end of the movie. And in this one, there's zero explanation as to why he is still alive, which was, to me, as a dedicated viewer of this series, very upsetting.
But it takes place in the future, the not too distant future. So you can kind of use your imagination and assume that Jason's had some adventures between the last movie and this one.
Between going to hell and this movie.
Right. And basically, if you know anything about Jason, you're up to speed because he's been captured and there's a disagreement between she's a doctor or she's a psychiatrist or something. Who knows?
She works for the fucking prison, I think.
Yeah, and she's like,
One way
this
or
is
another.
a dangerous man, and the government is like, well, we need to research him because he regenerates and we can use that ability.
The government played by David Cronenberg.
Yes.
The great David Cronenberg.
Right, in a very brief appearance.
Baffling why he would have been interested to be in this movie.
Long story short, he gets cryogenically frozen, and the woman who was the only human who understood the threat that he posed is also cryogenically frozen. And then fast forward 455 years, and they get discovered by an archaeology class on the now dead planet Earth and taken.
Is that what they were in archaeology class?
Yes.
Okay.
And taken up to space.
Yeah.
And that's it. And he's in space in the first 15 minutes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good stuff.
Spacing.
That's the premise of this movie, and I'll be damned. Finally, we have a movie that, sticks to its premise, basically.
It delivers what it promises up front. So there's that.
I mean, God damn it. I'm just going to keep talking about how I've watched all these movies, which everybody's fucking probably bored of already. But I loved, yeah, you're like, I loved just the ballsiness of like, fuck it, let's go to space. We've worn out because they've been at fucking Camp Crystal Lake for 9 movies now, and it's like, yeah, let's go to space. I was definitely enjoying the novelty of that.
We should point out that the research facility that Jason is found in the beginning is named after Camp Crystal Lake.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's called Camp Crystal Lake Research, right?
Oh, that's funny.
Nobody
I didn't
noticed
even
that.
pick
I
up
didn't
on
notice
that.
No idea how that came to be.
But if you're giving credit for audacity, it's worth mentioning that Leprechaun went to space first.
Did it?
And then
1996.
Hellraiser after that.
Hellraiser went to space too?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So it's just a ripoff.
I've actually never seen any of these horror icons in space films, even though they are the inspiration for Deep Space Pizza Face Killer 2.
So was this an inspiring journey for you? Did you get some ideas?
It was...
He texted me and he's like, I'm pissed at how many of my ideas Jason X ripped off.
Yes, having never seen this movie before and not even really knowing what the concept was, I was frustrated that many of the story devices were similar to my concept for Deep Space Pizza Face. I don't really elaborate on the concept of Deep Space Pizza Face.
Top secret.
It's a very good idea.
I mean, you never explained Pizza Face Killer on the podcast in the first
yeah.
place, and I think it's one of those just sort of like Easter eggs where it's
Yeah.
like, in a like futuristic movie where you see like an ad for something on the street and it's just purely out of context, or in its context. Like there's no backstory.
Yeah, but he was going to be frozen. They were going to find him. A team of researchers was going to find Pizza Face Killer frozen in like the refrigerator of because he's a pizza, right? They were going to find him frozen
Because he's a pizza, right?
Literal pizza?
He's a man made out of pizza.
Just his face or his whole self?
It's his whole body has been. It started off with a man who a pizza landed on his face while he was making it, and he went through the pizza oven. But it's a supernatural pizza entity that eventually consumes him, and he's just all pizza demon.
I've known Chris for like 10 years or 15 years or some horrifying horse shit, and I've heard you talk about this movie for another large number of years, and I still don't fully understand what the fuck Pizza Face Killer
Me neither.
is about.
If I knew, I would write it down if I knew. But anyway,
Is there any pineapple on this pizza?
there's a lot of toppings within him. And
Oh, is it like
I'm sure there'll be a subplot about pineapple on pizza.
Okay.
Is it like a Mega Mary's?
Oh God, the Mega Mary.
Were you at all inspired by the sketch from All That on Nickelodeon?
No.
Pizza Face?
No, I didn't have cable growing up for the most part.
Man.
I remember Pizza Face.
Yep. Literal pizza for a face. So people might think that you've ripped that off. I'm just going to put that out there.
Well, they're gonna think
No,
I
they're
ripped
all
off
ripping
Jason,
Chris off.
Jason 10, Jason X.
In 1996, they were ripping Chris
They
off.
traveled forward into the future, excavated Chris's brain from his head, extracted Pizza Face from it, and voila.
Yep, pretty much. But yeah, this was pretty much everything I had hoped for out of a Jason in space movie, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I can agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
It barely felt like a movie to me.
It barely felt like a movie.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I say when that's what I expect.
Okay.
Like, Jason movies generally barely feel like a movie. You know, I said Allison and I had gotten like 50 minutes into it, I think, 50 minutes. And I was like, we've been watching this for a significant amount of time, and I feel like we've been watching for 5 minutes because 5 minutes of like actual plot, actual content is all that's happened. Otherwise, it's just been killings. And that's what Jason movies are. They're just a string of fucking killings.
It's so cheap looking too. Like I feel like they reused the sets from Xenon.
I was gonna say that this movie feels like somebody was like, you know what, I really want to direct another Xenon movie, but all I've been offered was this Jason movie.
What's Xenon?
Xenon Girl of the 21st Century.
It was a Disney Channel.
They're talking about Disney Channel original.
movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yup. And they were like, well, you can direct a 10th Jason movie. And they're like, okay, but here's a concept. Jason meets Xenon. You can't put Xenon in there. Fine.
See, I
We're gonna
disagree.
pretend she's there.
I disagree about the cheapness. It did occur to me that the sets looked like they easily could have been ripped off from some other shitty like sci-fi production, but we were both saying that like the CG especially, I was surprised at how good that looked for its era, and also the fact that it's, you know, a fairly low budget fucking Jason movie.
I think their entire budget went to the CG work, is what it looked like.
I mean, it was
Probably.
such a low budget movie. This is a 2001 movie, okay?
Like $14 million or something.
I don't know what the budget was.
I looked it up earlier. It was like I think it said 14 to 17 million.
Yeah, the internet says it was 14 million, and it made 17 million.
Incredible.
But it's 2001, so you know this is after. I mean, obviously it's not comparable budgets, but like Star Wars Episode 1, for all its problems, the CG looks a lot better than this.
That's also
I disagree.
Star Wars, though.
Are you serious?
I'm extremely serious about that.
The only
Yeah.
thing the only CG that looks shitty in this movie are those monsters when they're playing the like video game, and those are supposed to look
The
shitty.
starships look cheap. I
Oh
don't
my
know.
god, yeah,
What?
the scene where the starship like crashes into the port looks
Yeah.
ridiculous. There was a nice
That looked
practical
awesome.
effect
Are
in
you
there.
shitting me? Yeah, there was a good practical effect in it, but that whole thing I
It
thought
wasn't
was
I didn't think it was a good
surprisingly-
practical effect, but it was a practical effect.
I thought that was surprisingly well rendered for the time and the
For
budget.
the time, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
this was a
Agree to
year after
disagree.
Fellowship of the Ring came out. I mean, come on.
I mean, the opening
Was it
sequence
really?
did
Yeah,
look like it was
you're
out
right.
of the beginning of the Two Towers, though. With all of like, I thought that they were in like the depths of Isengard.
Because it just starts out with this scene of like
Oh,
flaming
no.
like hell shit.
it doesn't look nearly
no,
that
it looked
good.
like fucking Spawn.
It looks fine.
It looked like Spawn the movie.
I
did.
thought of
That
Spawn,
opening
but
where we're,
the
like,
but the
inside
effects
of
look so
Jason.
much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that opening is wild. I don't know what the fuck
I
is
feel like
going
it
on.
begins
in
in hell. Like it's a callback
It
to
kind
Jason
of
Goes to
does,
Hell. There's
yeah.
kind of like a Boschian hellscape with flames shooting out all over the
I
place.
feel like that's my explanation. That's my like connective tissue that I'm looking for between
Yeah.
Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X. But that's all I get is this fucking flaming hell, and then we're like kind of there's
Very
weird
impressionistic.
POV shots from inside Jason's body as people are like cutting into it and autopsying it, and that opening sequence is fucking a trip.
It reminded Steven of Hieronymus Bosch.
Why is that funny?
Stephen already said that. Why are you saying that?
I picked up on that. That was funny. No, but CG aside, it does look very cheap. I was going to say it looks like a Mystery Science Theater 3000 movie, but not the movies that they actually watch on Mystery Science Theater 3000, but like the intermission skits that they do on Mystery Science Theater 3000. Are any of you keen on Mystery Science Theater 3000?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
like it's
Never
like
watched it actually.
just exactly the same kind of sets and everything like that. And
Super cheap, made for TV looking.
I disagree. I mean, I don't think it looks great. The CG actually impressed me again for its time and its era. The sets are fine. They're
I
fine.
mean, let's be real. This is the 10th movie in a series that probably went off the rails a long time before it reached the 10th one.
and had been defunct for like a decade when this
what
movie
else
came
do
out.
you expect?
Agreed. So Jason fucking unfreezes, he defrosts on this space station. Oh, also we are introduced to some like pretty impressive technology that's capable of immediately like stitching people back together.
nanomachines, baby.
Yeah, which of course kind of raises the question of why can't we just bring back everyone who dies in this movie, because only certain people are granted that like miraculous resurrection.
You found a plot hole in Jason X.
Yeah, imagine that.
So their plan is to bring back the woman to life, but they don't plan on bringing Jason back to life.
Right.
That
The
is
woman being like the one from
the one who is
450 years
455
ago.
years ago. Yep.
Yeah.
Or because there's a cyborg, there's an android, of course, as part of the crew.
Yeah.
And she says that the Jason and the woman are 4.55 centuries old. Which is how they tell us how old everything is.
Yeah, but of course Jason wakes up.
Particularly because, not necessarily because, but there happens to be 3 different couples who are just getting ready to get down and dirty, and he is just feeling that sexual energy.
Yeah. I mean, we've been through like 9 movies basically of Jason being at Camp Crystal Lake, and there's all these fucking horny teenagers around all the time. He's fucking them up. And so basically we get onto a space station. It's the future. We're in this futuristic fucking lab, and already you've got all these like horny teenagers basically running around in the lab for no reason whatsoever, other than I guess it's an archaeology class, which is, I guess, sort of an interesting explanation, but it's just funny to me that immediately you have everybody running around like wanting to have sex, and 3 different couples go off to fuck simultaneously, leaving their supervisor, teacher, whatever the fuck, alone in the lab with frozen Jason. And there's a hilarious scene where there's like this one dude is like taking his girlfriend's panties off, and then it cuts back to the lab, and Jason's hand twitches. Like Jason just sensed a pussy being licked, and he was like, "Oh God, let's go."
As they were getting aroused, Jason was rousing.
Well,
he was ready.
You can read some maybe some self-referential stuff into there. He's Jason's comes to life when there's the sexual energy. That's what makes him want to kill again, thaws him out.
Perhaps.
I mean, this movie is self-referential and it has a sense of humor. I just didn't think it was funny or very imaginative.
Oh, yeah, the moments, I mean, and there's one moment in particular that we'll probably talk about later, but there's one moment in particular where it seems to be like very self-referential and self-aware, and it's like, come on, you are playing exactly by the playbook that you're making fun of right now,
Yeah, it's not funny because it's trying to be, unfortunately.
But Jason wakes up and, in my opinion, gets to like one of his best kills in this moment.
I enjoyed that kill
right off the bat. He shoves the scientist woman's head into a vat of, I don't know, cryotechnology, whatever the fuck fluid that just like insta freezes her face, which is enough. She's already dead as soon as he pulls her out of this fluid. But then he bashes her head into a counter, and the front of her face shatters, and just like the back of her head is left. It's gruesome,
rough,
and stunning.
Oh yeah, some fun kills in this movie.
Liquid nitrogen, yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. I mean, we should also comment on, there are some incredible outfits in this film. I feel like Allison and Steven are probably best positioned to comment on this.
The double sweater thing that she's wearing.
I mean, it really truly looks like they took late 90s fashion and were like, how do we make this kind of look like it's futuristic but still solidly set it in the late 90s?
There are lots of exposed midriffs. There are lots of sort of, like flared, what do they call the pants at that time? What were those
flares?
Called? Flares, sure, yeah.
A lot of bootcut jeans.
A lot of bootcut jeans.
Yeah, yes, that's what I was trying to think of, bootcut jeans. Yeah, and even like the scientist, like the person in charge, has like this top that's just like all midriff. She looks exactly the same as her students.
But yeah, very, very, if Xenon grew up.
I was relieved though at the tone of the movie, because I was knowing nothing about the movie going into it. I was expecting kind of like a super edgy, trying too hard to be dark, kind of like a Spawn type of movie where it's like on a space station and Jason's creeping around with a chain around his neck killing people, and that's not at all what you get.
I expected like Slipknot on the soundtrack.
Yeah. But no, it's a attempts to be a really fun and funny movie.
Attempts.
And I laughed. I laughed at times, and I was like, okay, I can get on board with the intentional cheese level of this movie. And if you're gonna put Jason in space, I'm glad that you have some self-awareness to do a cheesy ass movie.
There are a couple of major puns in this movie, and I can only think of one of them right now. But there are a couple of big pun lines right before people die.
Yeah.
Well, do tell. What's the one you can think of?
Oh, the one where the woman's like about to get sucked out of the spaceship, which might be like spoiler room material, but who gives a fuck? It's like right before she lets go because she can't hold on anymore. She's like, this is gonna suck on so many levels, and then she gets sucked out of the...
Ebert began his review with that line, this sucks on so many levels, and he said it's rare for a film to describe itself so clearly.
Did Ebert give it any credit for like trying to be self-aware or knowingly dumb?
No, so Ebert actually, I looked back at his reviews for the first two films. The second one was the last one he'd reviewed until this, and he put in parentheses at the end.
Lucky him.
Well, he refused to review the other ones. The end of his review for the second film said, in parentheses, this review should suffice for any Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah, he had a real problem with like the dead teenager concept and like...
Well, and the misogyny and all that. I wanted to go back to special effects. There's a really funny line well, there are many funny lines in his review. With Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones opening in mid-May, there's a lot of talk lately about how good computer-generated special effects have become. On the basis of the effects in Jason X and the much more entertaining Scorpion King. We can also chat about how bad they're getting. Perhaps audiences do not require realistic illusions, but simply the illusion of realistic illusions. Shabby special effects can have their own charm.
I just disagree with that so much. What was a scene that looked really bad that just like took you guys out
all
of this?
the exterior shots of the spacecraft.
Are you shitting me?
I just feel like for 2001, for a movie that came out in 2001 with that low of a budget, I mean, that is way better than I was expecting.
It looks like a Sci-Fi Channel original movie from the 90s.
It looks like the cutscene of like a PlayStation 1 game from 1998.
No,
it's not that bad.
No, you are so wrong. It looks better than... I haven't seen the prequel trilogy in a while, but it looked... I remember like...
There's no comparison.
I remember many scenes from the prequel trilogy where I'm like, oh, that looks like shit. There was nothing in this movie where I went, oh, that looks like shit.
Maybe it's because everything looks like
video
shit.
Game scene.
It's not like you're going from like they're on Tatooine in episode 1 and it's all actual like practical sets, and then they go into space and it's CG and you're like, oh, that CG looks like shit. Maybe it's because everything looks like shit. It numbed your brain. It's science.
Nah. No.
Well, we're going to agree to disagree. Our listeners can skim through it on Netflix and just judge for yourself if the CG is at all acceptable. I mean, but you know, there's something to be said. Yeah.
Hey, when we give it 4 view-its, they might go watch it for themselves.
It was shitty, but like, yeah, you know, you can tell what's going on. Like, it's kind of like a puppet show, where it's like the idea of a spaceship instead of like, I'm actually sold on a spaceship.
Well, let's talk about that scene that is intentionally shitty looking. Somehow, Jason winds up in a virtual reality game.
Yeah.
Can anybody explain this to me?
No.
Okay, there is no explanation.
That was good. What?
I mean, it's an
It was a good
interesting
concept.
but it doesn't make any sense.
So here's what they did with the scene. And
Let's try that again with all 4 of us.
It's a good concept.
That scene for me, you know, it was interesting because it's like, what the hell's going on here? It kind of sets up that these military guys are like maybe badasses.
I mean, we should explain what the fuck we're talking about. So there's like a scene where these 2 dudes on the ship are playing a virtual reality game. At first you think that maybe these guys are like hiding from Jason or something unnamed in the ship. And you quickly realize they're being chased by these really shitty looking CG aliens, and they're just playing a video game that's like a virtual reality
training
thing.
simulator, I would call it. I mean,
it
it's
seems like a
military
game to me.
guys. It's gamified killing, just like how our video games prepare young children to enter the armed services in real life.
Very similar.
Yeah.
But like Jason appears in the game somehow, inexplicably, even though the entire reality of the game is computer generated and not real, and these guys are just sitting on the floor while they're standing and like shooting guns and shit in real life. Jason appears in the game, Shreks them both, slices them both fucking open. They don't care because that's in the game. They end the game. They're still okay. Jason is standing there, and it's just really very bizarre how Jason somehow enters the game and interacts with their avatars.
I didn't need to understand, you know, this isn't James Cameron's Avatar. I didn't really need to I didn't need to understand the nuts and bolts of like how the virtual reality simulation worked. I was like, this is 4.55 centuries from now.
Yeah.
I feel like Avatar is your kill list. You reference Avatar every episode.
Yeah, we need a sound effect.
Yeah.
It's my what?
It's your kill list.
Yeah, we should get a sound effect for Avatar. Maybe I'll work on that.
I'll give you some credits. I'll tip you some tokens
James
if you come up with an
Cameron's
Avatar.
Avatar. No, it was fine. And then they used the same setup. It was a setup with a payoff, unlike a lot of scenes in this movie. So that was fun.
I guess that's true.
Here's my problem
It comes back
with it, though.
in a clever way later, for sure.
In the VR scene, VR Jason like kills both of those guys in really imaginative ways, or like imaginative compared to the rest of the film. Like he slices one of them in half and like the head is dangling off the side and still talking. When we're in reality, he just like beats the shit out of them very quickly and dispenses of them with like no flourishes whatsoever.
Yeah, like one dude, he just like breaks his spine basically, and the other one he bashes his head against.
But that's a
the
class.
wall.
You have an opportunity to kill these people twice in ways that are both entertaining. Like I just feel that.
And
was
he's
bad.
just like exhausted by the second round. He's like, let me just get this over with. Jeez.
I mean, they definitely make up for it. Like there are some memorable kills.
There
in this
are
movie.
some crazy kills.
The problem is there's too much dispensable cast in the movie.
There's
so
way
much
too many
fodder.
people in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's like they're just putting characters in here just to be like, I mean, we want to kill how many people? What, 20? Let's just put in like 20 people we don't care about.
There's maybe like 5 or 6 kills where I could go back and say, well, that's clever or that's clever.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is just like he just stabs him with a machete like in 5 seconds.
I mean, I've seen a lot of fucking cannon fodder characters in 10 of these movies now, but this is probably second or third on the list for just sheer amount of fucking superfluous characters who are there just to be killed.
But again, maybe that's part of the self-referential nature of the movie, you know?
I found it exhausting. There was a moment where I realized there were 30 minutes left in this movie, and there were more people than I realized were even in the movie to begin with still alive.
I had the same moment, and I was like, Christ, how much more can you milk out of this?
Right.
But yeah, there's like this whole sequence not long after like the VR sequence where like just all of these characters are just sent into the situation literally just to be killed, essentially.
That was kind of okay for me. For me, that was basically equivalent to, you know, when the Marines go in and James Cameron's Aliens to kill the aliens, and they just
as
get
opposed to
fucked
the
up.
other Aliens movie, yeah.
Yeah. You know, you got these ultimate badasses, and you're like, oh, all right, they're gonna kill Jason, right? And no, nowhere even close. And so then the students realize that they're all alone on the spaceship with Jason, and no one's gonna save them. That works like that. You get some good. You get the most badass, like the leader of them all. He gets stabbed. He's like, it's gonna take more than a poke in the ribs to put down this old dog, and then he gets stabbed again. And he's like, oh, that'll do it.
He does literally say that.
That was pretty funny.
You know, that's fun. It was all fun. I didn't mind that part. Seeing Jason creep around. A lot of good little
Dude, no, there were only 2 of those.
Oh, only?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one early in the thing, and then one later in a moment we'll talk about in the spoiler room. Those are the only in this movie, which is shocking.
Oh, maybe I felt like I heard it more than that, but maybe I just
Because
was
it should have
excited.
played so
Yeah.
many times, and it
Yeah.
doesn't. They like
Pizza
decided
Face
they were
Killer
better
needs
than
his
that.
own theme like that.
Yeah.
Maybe like a mandolin. Like.
I will say one of my favorite kills, at least for just like how the person died and the kind of the aftermath of that, was in that sequence of just Jason wasting all of these grunts, and he throws this dude off of some kind of thing and throws him onto basically
An
like
auger?
this
Oh, God.
yes, and
Oh, that
the
was the
guy
pun.
just
Yeah.
spins down as like this giant screw is like through his abdomen, and it was disgusting.
Yeah, and then right
And
after
great.
that, somebody's like, "Oh, what happened to whatever his name is, Chris?" And the other person's like, "He got screwed."
And that's
So
fun.
clever.
No, it's fun, and especially because it's like, you know, they're still like have the veneer of like serious military guys. So he's on his radio. He's like, "I found him. What's his condition? He's screwed." Like that's just some good old like, you know, that's the kind of shit that you'd see in like Commando or something like that. That's all good. It was all fun. It was.
That seems like something you would write into one of your screenplays. That seemed like a very Chris kind of line.
It didn't bother me. It was a movie that attempted to be a lot of fun, and it was fun in some places. I'm glad that he went in this direction with it. Like, this is a movie where if they had made a serious version, I would be here being like, "That's a stupid concept. They should have played it, you know, for stupid."
They should
I really
played it for
expect-
stupid.
I really expected you to have more complaints.
Well, my complaint is that it was boring, kind of, you know?
It went on. It felt like it went on a little too long. Like just,
And it's under 90 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
91.
Like,
okay.
The problem with this movie is it didn't take itself seriously, and that was good, and it was fun, but it was stupid at a level of like an asylum movie, where it felt like they just weren't putting in any effort to make a good movie. And you can have a dumb movie that with the comedy and still have it be like decent and interesting.
I mean, speaking of quality and asylum type of shit, there were some asylum quality performances in this for sure.
For sure.
Like almost nothing good in the performance department other than the robot lady. I liked her.
Oh yeah, she was great.
She was solid.
she might have been the best. To me, it felt like the acting was very much like, okay, and you're gonna say this right now, and they're like, okay, yes, and then I'm saying my line right now. Oh yes, and then I'm saying my line in response.
Not a lot of feeling.
Not a lot of feeling. That's okay. It's fine.
I'm just looking up the director because you're talking about the performance.
I was curious, and I didn't
I'm
have
like,
time to.
Who is this man? What has he done? Well, he's dead now. He died in 2012.
Oh, all right.
Let's not
I wonder
bring him
if-
into this. Let's not disrespect the dead.
Oh, I'm not
I
going to
wonder if he
disrespect
fell
him.
on an auger.
Oh, God.
Oh.
But his name was James Isaac, and he was a special effects supervisor.
Oh, of course.
And he made, but that's the thing. This isn't a movie that's like really great on special. I mean, I guess it is in some parts, but it's not really a great effects film. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. But he made creatures.
I mean, we've
for-
already agreed to disagree on that topic, so let's not wake sleeping dogs.
He made creatures for Return of the Jedi and Gremlins and House 2, the second story.
Oh,
He
nice.
did
Yeah,
he did.
And he worked on Arachnophobia.
Oh.
All right, James Isaac. Is that his name? James Isaac?
Yep.
My boy.
And but then he didn't direct many movies. He had one movie in 1989 called The Horror Show, and then he did Jason X, and then he did a movie called Skinwalkers, which I think I've heard of, but I've never seen.
I recognize that poster for sure.
And then that was it.
That's all he wrote.
R.I.P. James Isaac, my favorite filmmaker.
Jason X, his magnum opus.
Oh, but yeah, this is
crowning
this
achievement.
is. I was wondering what the other actors have done, because the woman who plays the android,
Yes,
I thought,
who is she?
had the best performance, and she kind
I
of looked
agree.
familiar.
She reminded me of Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yes, that's what I was going to
mostly.
say.
Well, her other credits include Andromeda, Kevin Sorbo vehicle that was on from 2000 to 2005.
I remember that.
I remember that.
Forever Night, which was that the one? No, that was the one. But yeah, that was the one about the vampire who's a homicide detective. That was on like Sci-Fi Channel. That's the kind of era we're working in. But yeah, that was a great role. Well, I got to talk about her some more. I think we gotta go to the spoiler room. So there's only one thing left to do. Gotta review it. Patrick, you picked the movie. Would you view it, cue it, or
Oh man,
screw
fuck!
it?
I'm not ready. No, somebody else go.
Okay, he's not ready.
I haven't even thought
Steven,
about this.
I'm sure you're ready. Would you cue it, view it, or screw it?
Screw it. I didn't mention earlier that
He's always ready.
I didn't mention earlier that I actually saw this movie when it was in theaters.
Oh, hell
So
yeah.
This is my second journey to space with Jason.
How much did you pay? X dollars.
Oh God, come
And you were what, like 9, 10?
on. I
9
would have been
X.
12, right?
Yeah, sure.
2002,
2001, I think.
1, 2. I don't know. Who cares? Too young. Yeah, it's garbage. It feels like a made-for-TV movie. I don't like the Jason franchise. I don't like slashers. It's trying to be funny, and it's not. The special effects are terrible. I don't care what Patrick says.
Agree and disagree. Sleeping dogs.
Anyway, screw it.
Allison. With a Y.
This is tough. I'm gonna have to say I'm gonna have to give it a cue it, because I went in with very, very, very low expectations, and I got some entertainment out of it. But I also grew up watching shitty sci-fi horror and getting some entertainment out of that. So while I recognize that it's not exactly a great movie, it was entertaining enough for me to be like, hey, do you kind of want to watch a shitty sci-fi horror? Yeah, then watch Jason X. And that's how I feel about that.
I would give it a cue it. I was early on in this movie, I was trying to find a way to give it a view it, because it seems like a movie I should love more than I do. It's just, I don't know if lazy is the right word, but it just feels like it's almost great, but then they just didn't really care. Like they're trying to make they're trying to make a funny movie. They couldn't have found like a funny person to give the script like a second pass.
It needed
just, like,
one more
tweak
draft.
the dialogue a little bit or something. It was content to be at that asylum level of schlock, which I can appreciate that that's what they were trying to do, but it's not a movie I would really recommend to anybody because of that. So yeah, cue it. Patrick, have you made your decision for Christ?
Yes. For Christ. Yeah. This is my second, maybe third favorite film in the Friday the 13th franchise. I would give it a cue it. I can't bring myself to give it a view it. I think I also, like you, Chris, was looking for reasons to do so, but I can't quite go there. It is certainly worth watching just for the novelty value of Jason in space. If you're a fan of sci-fi horror, if you're a fan of Jason slashers, whatever the fuck, there's enough entertainment value here. I like that concept, though. I'm really kind of turning that around in my head. Like, what if this had gotten one more draft and actually been turned into something like truly, like, a little more transcendent and a little more clever and a little more worthwhile?
No, I know what you're saying.
Wait, what are you guys laughing at?
The idea that this movie could be transcendent in any way. What would that even
a
look
little bit more
like?
meaning to it. You know, it really revolutionized the sci-fi horror genre.
No, but I mean, what if it actually transcended your expectations of it and transcended its genre? Like, I think that's what we're talking about here. If it
I
transcended those low expectations that you kind of tend to go into it with, and really kind of push the concept to the next level.
Might have needed a couple more drafts for that.
There's a lot of good stuff in this movie.
I didn't laugh at y'all's comments.
There's a lot of good stuff in this movie, I thought, and scenes here and there where it's like if you cut out everything that was in between these scenes and then you filled it with something where like I could tell the characters apart for starters, you know. And that's the thing, you can still have a funny movie where I can tell the characters apart, and this movie just didn't give a fuck. It's not the Jason 10 movie we deserve.
I think it pretty much is.
All right, well,
with all the negative connotations.
You know, we should talk
that
about the title before we go to the
brings with
spoiler room. We didn't bring this up. Are we calling it Jason X or Jason 10?
I've been saying Jason X, but I mean, Jason 10 really makes sense. Jason X makes about as much sense as calling Halloween H20
Exactly.
Halloween H2O.
But I'm sure if we pull the trailer, it's Jason X.
I'm sure it is. All right, well, we're going to blast off into the spoiler room, and we're going to tell you about, you know, there were actually a couple twists, a couple interesting things towards the end that we've been withholding, because if you decide to watch this movie, we don't want to spoil the surprise. But stick around, we'll spoil those surprises. We'll tell you how it ends. We'll tell you if Jason dies for real this time. So stick around. We'll see you soon. Or go watch the movie. Your choice. Approaching space station spoiler room. Arrival in T-minus 5 seconds. 3 seconds. 1 second to impact. We have docked.
We're about to get fucked.
Yeah, so that was the big surprise for me because like the midpoint of the movie, they're on a spaceship. Jason shows up, kills everybody, and then they're like, "Oh, we gotta dock at this space station, and there we will be safe." And I'm like, "Oh, so we're gonna see part 1 of our story. Jason kills everyone on the space shuttle. It's part 2 of our story. Jason kills everyone on the space station."
Our story today in 2 acts.
Yep.
Act 1. We're on the spaceship.
That's what you expect is going to happen.
That's what you expect, but then they make it to the space station, and the space station just explodes.
Yeah.
So we're still
Space
on
Station Solaris. And I will not forgive them for that reference.
That was pretty ballsy.
Well, yeah, it was Solaris, and then the ship that they were on was Grendel.
Yes. If you know your Middle English literature, you might recognize that name.
Mm-hmm.
And they were also eventually communicating with another one called Tiamat.
Or if you've seen the great 2007 Ray Winstone film, Beowulf.
Yes. Robert Zemeckis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's Tiamat?
I think it's a D&D monster.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, that's cute.
So they're there's like Grendel and then there's Tiamat, so it's like monsters.
Okay, yeah, sure, that's cute. But my big question was, when's Jason going to get the sicko mask? Because he's got the like normal hockey mask, but you see in all the posters and everything, he's got the crazy,
and the little Netflix shot.
Little sicko mode mask. And
what does sicko mode mean?
Don't worry about it. He's got the little like metal mask fused to his face, and I'm like, oh, when's he gonna get that? When's he gonna get that?
So they accidentally destroy the space station, just that they fuck it. And they realize, well, that's not an option. What are we gonna do? And the android lady gets a bit of an upgrade.
Beautiful love story, by the way, between cyber nerd student and the android.
Very progressive.
A wonderful and weird scene in which he tries to give her nipples because she wants to be more like a human.
God,
she has breasts, but they don't have nipples, and he tries to give her nipples, and they just fall off, and she's very upset. Yeah, she's very upset because she wants to be more like a human. He's like, you're beautiful just the way you are.
Touching.
More relevant today than it was at the time, maybe.
Yeah.
Beautiful story.
I mean, arguably, no, it was the same amount of relevance. I think it's just more acceptable in the mainstream these days.
So she basically gets like this dominatrix badass upgrade.
Yeah.
Comes out in fucking latex corset.
It's very like Matrix meets Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, 100%.
And
That's exactly what it is.
To fuck Jason up.
And I was expecting Jason's just going to dispose of her, and that's going to be... what do we do now?
There's a little bait and switch there where he stabs her and she fakes him out and pretends to be dead, and then she fucks him up when he gets close.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and she just fucks him up, tears him to shreds
Lays
with
waste.
various weaponry.
But we've established that like combustible weapons and ammunition are not going to kill him. So why is that her only tactic? To just keep firing as many bullets.
Well, it worked.
It succeeds.
She had like a grenade launcher or something was like the difference.
I mean, here's the thing,
It should work.
she was just punching holes in them like the size of Coke cans, and they were blowing up.
This was, to me, an awesome and entertaining scene. But here's the big thing is she doesn't do anything that anyone else couldn't have already done.
Right.
Like, all these weapons were presumably on the ship, and anyone else could have operated them. Like, she does some sweet, like, kicks and karate moves, but none of that really, like, has any effect. It's an awesome scene still. It's fun to watch, but, like, she doesn't actually really change the game in any significant way.
I'm willing to accept in the Jason Goes to Space movie that an android might be more uniquely suited to killing Jason than a normal human.
Sure,
She
but
doesn't
have her
have
do it in a
fear
unique
holding
way.
her back.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
But I mean, so yeah, she succeeds. She literally blows his fucking arm and a fucking leg off,
And his
then
head.
blows his head off in the most satisfying moment I've seen in a movie probably since
H2O.
Halloween H20, 20 years later.
Yeah, it blows his head up, and I'm like, he's a pile of slop, and it's like, great
Molasses
ending.
oozing out
Great
of his
ending
wounds.
to a movie. I'm satisfied. Let's go home. Let's put the popcorn down. Let's turn off the TV. Let's go to bed, everybody.
But then the fucking
there's 20 minutes left.
magical
And you're like, some
nanobots.
shit's gonna happen.
Yes.
The nanobots come in, they patch him up.
Well, their dumbasses don't just take his corpse and throw it into space like they should. They're like, oh, let's take care of our problem that we're just floating in space. Let's find someone. And they just leave his corpse there on some shit that looks like it has some, intelligence to it. And it decides, oh, we can reconstruct this life, can't we? Let's try.
I mean, we agree because we've seen everyone knows the only way to get rid of a monster in space is to flush it into space.
Yeah.
We learned that in James Cameron's Aliens.
Stop.
So, yeah, that's what
they
they
almost
should have done.
deserve what's coming for not doing that, you know?
But the nanomachines build them and they give them the sweet mask. And
I mean, here's the question though: why weren't those nanomachines rebuilding everybody else? Why is
Because
this the
they
first
weren't-
person
Yeah, why is Jason
that they
special?
patched
Because he
up?
landed on the technology.
Oh,
Like
he
he
fell on the
landed
table.
on
Yeah.
the thing that detects
Oh,
yeah,
that.
yeah.
oh, well, huge oversight on the android's part then to leave them there.
And also once you're dead, I don't think the nanomachines can bring you back to life. But Jason can never
Is
really
special,
die.
yeah.
So
I wanted to see them actually put together this fucking new Jason, because he just shows up with all like his metal body parts and shit, and I kind of wanted to see them, the nanobots, actually assemble new Jason.
So that was the first big surprise, and then there's some sort of thing where they're trying to get onto a rescue shuttle that's coming. I didn't really care about any of that.
No,
but I did like when they have him cornered and they're trying to escape on the shuttle, and they trap him in the VR world again, and he's back at like Camp Crystal Lake. That was fun.
And
that
like
was
for a moment, he catches a glimpse of the dude who's manipulating the whole scenario, and then he's like, "Oh, I think I can create a distraction for him." And I was like, "It's gonna be a naked woman." Turns out to be two naked women.
Yeah.
You see some tits,
and they're like, "Hey, you want to drink? You want to smoke pot? You want to have some sex?"
Some premarital
sex. That's right. Yeah. And it's like that moment. This was kind of the most cringy moment of the movie, like being, "Hey, look, we're self-aware. We understand, the jokes about Jason."
I mean, yeah, that wasn't funny, but the funniest part of the movie was Jason killing them.
Right, in her sleeping bags.
There's a heart. They're like,
That's happened before.
Has it?
Yeah, that's more or less reference to previous
Oh,
movies,
that's
because he's done that.
disappointing.
Yeah.
Does he actually like pick a teen up in a sleeping bag and slam them into another teen?
No, the slamming into another teen was a new wrinkle.
Okay.
Previously, he's picked up someone in a sleeping bag and slammed them repeatedly into a tree.
Well, it was hilarious, and especially because it's done with like a hard cut where you see our heroes like trying to escape. Hard cut to Jason. Last time you saw was these girls like propositioning him. Hard cut back to him. He's just slamming the sleeping bags together. That's the funniest part of the movie. The whole movie should have been more like that.
Agreed.
And then that's basically it. I mean, the guy who died, the old dog, badass Marine guy,
Old dog.
he survives and somehow, and he becomes a badass yet again. He has to do a spacewalk for some reason or another. I forget how Jason gets kicked out into space, or maybe he just runs down the hallway as it's like detaching.
Doesn't it get blown up? I think it gets blown up. The ship.
The whole ship they're on gets blown up. And
so that's how he gets blown up with it. And then he's flying towards the other ship that the couple people have escaped onto, and they're like, "Oh no, he's coming this way." And then you see the captain dude just flying in his spacesuit and grabs onto Jason and hurls around the Earth.
Yeah.
Too.
Now here's the question: is that the Earth?
No,
It's Earth 2.
Is it? Do they say that it's Earth 2?
They reference an Earth 2, right?
Yeah, somebody's like, "It looks so beautiful." Yeah, they reference an Earth too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really wanted, when that happened, I really wanted to, after they went around like the back of the Earth, I wanted to see them come around the other side. Man, but that girl who gets sucked out into space, I mean, it's a very simple moment, very simple effect, but very effective. Like, they basically just hung probably a piece of raw chicken over this fucking like opening that she gets sucked out of. It's not shown in any like great length or great detail, but it's a nice, nasty, gross little moment.
It made my stomach churn at the thought of what happened to her.
Right, doesn't a grate like fly up and block the hole, and then she goes through that?
Yeah.
Yeah, she just gets sucked through a grate.
She gets.
Doesn't that happen in Alien Resurrection?
I don't remember.
I think one of the aliens gets sucked through a hole in a similar manner.
Should rewatch that. The second best Alien movie.
After James Cameron's Aliens, maybe.
Get the fuck out.
Anyway.
So low on the list.
So Captain, grabs onto Jason. They are essentially hurtling towards Earth 2 in a fiery ball.
They go through the atmosphere. It's beautiful.
Yeah, re-entry.
Yeah.
They burn up on re-entry, and then we see a cute little couple at what looks like
Crystal
Camp Crystal
Lake.
Lake.
Yep.
But we know it's not Crystal Lake because we know that the Earth has died.
Oh, dude, good point. I didn't even think of
That's
that.
why I asked if
So
it was
it's Earth 2.
Yeah, duh.
Yeah, so
It's Crystal Lake too.
yeah, so it's like the history repeats itself, but it's light years away from our Earth. And they're like, "Oh, look, a little shooting star. Let's go check it out. I think it landed in the lake." Oh, that was cute. I had no problems with that.
That was cute.
But all that's in the
Any
lake
problems
is
with
just
that?
the mask.
I had no problems with it. Yeah, I mean, I can't complain.
There's the
How else
mask,
could
and
this
then
movie get?
you realize, like, oh no, this is the chance for Jason to come back.
Except it's just the mask, so like what else could happen? Like, his body finally seems to have been fully disintegrated.
Oh, he'll
He'll
be
come
back.
back. He went to hell.
There
and he
are
wound
no
up in
more
space.
films. Or no, there's Freddy versus Jason. How does he come back in Freddy vs. Jason?
I don't think
haven't watched
that's
Freddy
really
vs.
in
Jason yet.
continuity. though.
It's not.
Well,
Fuck.
this movie takes place in 2455 or something.
Right. Oh,
So,
right. So it's post Freddy
It's
versus
post
Jason.
Freddy versus Jason.
And it's also, the entire continuity of the movie is post Freddy
Oh,
versus
I wish you had
Jason.
seen Freddy versus Jason. I wish we could talk about that on the show because I have some strong opinions about the
I
ending of
can't
that
wait to
movie.
see it. It's next on the list. Then I'm going to watch Friday the 13th, 2009 reboot.
No, that was good. Jason's still out there. He might come back. I was just glad, we don't have to watch it. I would not have wanted that movie to like tack on another 10 minutes like on the new planet.
No.
There's already enough like false endings.
I do like false endings like that. Like if you watch like From Russia with Love or like some of the old James Bond movies where it's like, oh, that's the end of the movie. Oh wait, no, there's another villain coming back. Oh, there's another villain coming. That's fun if that's the point, but
Not if I want it to be over.
yeah, not when the movie's treading water.
I mean, I was good with New Jason showing up.
New
New
Jason
good
was
with the
fun.
kind of multiple fake outs.
They were having some
It's all
fun
par
with
for
this
the
movie.
course.
It's all good. Well, Jason X, closing the book.
Closing the book. What are we watching next?
We are watching next. We're back to alphabetical order. We're watching Cirque du Freak, the Vampire's Assistant.
Wow.
I gotta look this up. Does this have John C. Reilly in it?
I think so.
That sounds like there's definitely a colon in that title, right?
Yes.
Are we implying there's an entire Cirque du Freak franchise, perhaps even a Cirque du Freak cinematic universe?
I think it's one of those things where they tried to make a franchise starting with the first movie, and I don't think it worked out. Which is
So we're
a very
gonna see
common symptom of modern movie making.
going to see an aborted cinematic universe.
We're going to make Peter Pan. We're going to bring Peter Pan into the 21st century. Come to the theater and see Peter Pan Volume 1, The Child with Potential. And then, it bombs, and they never make Peter Pan 2.
Yeah. Is John C. Reilly in it, Steve? Have
Yes,
we
he is.
Determined? Oh, okay.
Also,
What is this about? Like that title, I mean, so the Vampire's Assistant, I guess that tells me something, sort of. But what is Cirque du Freak? What does that even mean? Is that a book?
I think
I think
based
it's a
on
young
books.
adult series.
It has to be young
so
adult
it's-
because it's PG-13. It seems like it's like family fare, like it would be a PG spooky movie, but it's PG-13, so there's got to be a
Okay.
little bit of, maybe they say fuck once.
So we're going to be in like some Boothnoth territory here.
I don't know. We'll find
I hope
out.
Mr. Bonker shows up.
Oh, Mr. Bond.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. No. All right. Well, that's it for us, I guess. We'll catch you next time. We'll be watching Cirque du Freak, the
Yep,
Vampire's
coming back down to
Assistant.
Earth.
coming back down to Earth.
Earth 2.
Going
All
back
right.
down to the Cirque.
Well, until then, you know where to find us online: Facebook, Twitter. Our Instagram is back, baby.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, our Instagram is cracking. So
yeah.
get on over there. I don't know what do people do on Instagram.
How are we-
You
Hashtag
like
us.
pictures. You
How are we
hashtag,
competing with
you
the egg?
follow.
Like, how far behind the egg are we?
We're last time I checked, we were about like 20,000 behind the egg.
Okay,
but we
that's
can
not
close
bad.
that gap.
Okay.
What the fuck is the egg?
There's an egg. The world record egg is going to be the most liked picture on Instagram.
Oh.
It's just a picture of an egg.
Have you heard of this?
No, I have not.
The two guys who are not on Instagram. How do we not know about this and the two guys who aren't on Instagram do?
I don't know.
Incredible.
I gotta-
Egg? Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
It's the bird box of Instagram.
Wow.
So yeah, catch us online, and you know what? If you haven't, rated us on iTunes or something, you probably should, because I don't know this, but people say it helps. They say, "Hey man, review us, and it helps us a lot." So if it helps them a lot, maybe it'll help us a lot. So leave us a little review. Tell us what you think.
What if they troll us?
Oh, we'll troll them back.
Okay.
We'll troll them back.
Have you guys ever been trolled?
We get trolled by the What Disaster podcast people.
Oh.
And recently, Chris trolled back pretty hard.
I trolled back.
Actually.
I almost trolled back so savage. I dialed down my savagery because I was like, this is too much. But
Yeah.
until then, for every horror movie on Netflix, I'm Chris, here with Steven
Bye.
and Allison
Thanks.
and Patrick. Oh, God.
No, oh my
Oh, no. What happened? Oh, God. Patrick. Patrick. Patrick.